Hello, Ivan.
Hello.
I'm happy to see you here at
Thank you.
next.bg. What is the reason for your stay in Bulgaria?
We are we're launching a network of clinics in Italy
Okay.
for NAD and let's say, regenerative clinics. So I spend a lot of time between London and Milan right now. I've been in the space for 22 years now.
You mean in the longevity sector?
Well, back then it was called anti-aging.
Okay.
So I launched a company in 2003, was doing genome sequencing.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so we were the first European-based technology. It was actually an Estonian technology that was doing next generation sequencing, and then we started a company in predictive genomic testing. Then we went into nutraceutical supplements, anti-aging clinics, but back then it was too pioneering. We launched a brand. It was called the DNA Spa. We were opening within leading hospitality, like leading hotels, like five-star hotels in Italy and south of France. And but as I said, it was too early. So 2003, 2011. Back then, science was only talking about genomics, and we didn't have the epigenetic aspect of the cell, so, and the biology of it. So then we decided to sell bits and parts of the company in 2011, and I'm back in now what's called the longevity. I like to call it more precision, the precision health or precision medicine.
Precision medicine, not longevity. This is
Right, I
something
think
more.
longevity, it's part of the precision, so it's not the way around. Longevity, it's maybe more. So right now I think there's a huge division between. You have most of the money. The global economies are turning around Medicare, right? So everything that cures diseases and major investment, private equity is on the Medicare part. So
Okay, the big
pharmacogenomics,
Okay.
big pharma. So everybody's obsessed about sort of lowering the cost of chronic disease, right? But nobody really understand. I mean, they understand it now, especially now. But I mean, of course, the big challenge is going to be on the life care
prevention.
part, right? So when I started investing in the field, we were talking about lifespan, right? So sort of like live longer forever, right? Which it's still, I think, feasible. I mean, if you think about top 5 tycoons in the world: Bezos, Elon Musk, Daniel Ek, the guy from Spotify. Ray Kurzweil, Tony Robbins. They all are investing in the field, trying to find the silver bullet for gene therapy or reverse aging. Because it's actually, David Sinclair and all these big scientists, they have sort of proved that there are different mechanisms with sirtuins, with the rapamycin, mTOR, to sort of prove that the man, it's a machine. The human beings are a machine that are just deteriorating, because aging is a disease, right? So it can be cured.
Do you believe in this, in
Yes.
age reversing?
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, it's going to take time. Probably, I think it's a 2030. Our kids might probably fully benefit from it. If you think about the stem cell, it's engineering, right? It's bioengineering and back engineering of. Now it's becoming very common. When I started doing genomics, to do the full sequencing, whole full sequencing genome was costing about 2 million. Now there's a couple of companies. One is an Italian chap of mine. He's actually a Harvard guy like me. The company is called Dante's Lab. It's listed at the Nasdaq.
Okay.
He now sort of went under the wall of $200 for a full sequence genome test, which is not predictive test, which is still what a lot of companies are doing out there, which I find it to be horoscopology. They're telling you what your risk of developing a specific disease are, but then what you're going to do about it. What's more helpful today, it's the epigenetics, right? So to understand what's how your lifestyle is working on your
Affecting your
epigenome,
aging,
right?
yes, process.
So all the new test about biological clocks, aging clocks, Steve Horvath and all this. So what happened in the last 6-7 years is that science, the official science, has finally accepted and endorsed protocols, technologies, discoveries that have proven that maybe, let's say, modalities and let's say just let's say common practices that have been there for ages, for not decades, for centuries. I mean, from the Neanderthal men, like for example, fasting, right? I mean,
Okay.
They told us in the late 80s up to 10 years ago that we had to eat 5 times a day, right? Remember the Barry Sears diet, the zone diet.
Yes,
Now
this
they're
was very
finally, if
trendy.
you think about the last Nobel Prizes, the Japanese guy who sort of discovered the mechanism of autophagy, which is cleaning your cell. I mean, your body is conceived, is engineered to sort of detox himself, right?
Yes.
So they're cleaning themselves alone. So that's why intermittent fasting today is so popular, right? Because everybody understands better. I mean, COVID sort of gave a huge kick to the general consciousness, but everybody now understands what the insulin resistant mechanism are. I mean, cold therapy, it's another sort of big trend because the
chambers,
the chambers, the cryo, a hyperbaric chamber, all this new like technology that are growing into businesses which are most likely to last. Some of them are just I think a meteorite, like sort of they're sort of flowing with the trend. I mean, I think so in this field where you have a long vision of 20-30 years, which I call it the era of precision economy. I'm writing my 3rd book on it because I wrote 2 books already. One is called The Long Life Manifesto, and the other one is called Molecule of Lives.
Do you have your books here?
No, I don't, sorry. I'm writing a 3rd book. It's called Longevity Inc. Because everybody talks about longevity, but it's an overrated word right now. It's a bit like the biohacking, but the biohacking, thanks God, has been sort of deferred and isolated to, let's say, more the fitness industry. So it's like, let's say the most inspired personal trainers that become biohackers. So now everybody's a biohacker. I mean, Brian Johnson is a biohacker, right? I mean, even Sinclair is a biohacker. So by definition, but I think it's not giving credit to the real technology part. So precision, basically, what the precision medicine does, it puts together science, clinical practice, applied science, and of course data, right? AI and generative power of AI. So I think that's the revolution, right? So when you apply precision economy to precision health, to precision nutrition, precision fitness, I mean, what we're doing here, it's precision micronutrition, right? Because it's micro feeding the body, right?
And the cells.
Right.
Especially.
So, but like if you think about it, there's a very interesting study from an observatory in California. It's called about precision consumers. So they're telling us that right now the big producer of food, like Monsanto or Tesco or Walmart, the distributors of food, but even the producer like Nestle, they're looking into starting to look at the way the assumption is that within 10 years we're all going to have our genome stored on our Apple wallet, right? That's what Apple is aiming at, because it's going to cost $30-40. So even less. So the goal is that once we know what our genotype is, there's an old book that says "Eat right for your genotype." So the company,
Who is the author of this book? Do you remember?
I'll tell you. It will come up.
Because there are not so many books about genomes that are really.
Well, there's a basically the companies are saying that within 10 years, we're going to buy the pasta or the rice or the cookies or whatever based on the color of our genotype. So they're going to be like 10, 12 colors. So you're going to go at the supermarket on the shelf and buy, the red pasta because you're a red genotype. So it's better for your genome. So that's precision.
You think this will happen in 10
Oh,
years?
yes. They're already moving towards that. Nestle, it's like already sort of Barilla, all the big producers, like
This is
food
very
process.
interesting.
Yeah.
I hope this comes early in Bulgaria also, because
Well,
here,
I mean, it's going to be a global trend. I mean, it's very let's say behind the scene, but
and
that's
why is behind the scene?
well because it's not. I mean, it needs to be. I mean, first of all, as I was saying, full sequence genome. It's doing. I mean, it's not. It cannot be. It cannot be used by just any doctor. Nobody knows how to read a full sequence genome, right? That's the problem.
What exactly means full sequence genome?
Well, you're sequencing a 30,000 combination of genes we have.
Okay.
Instead of doing today, when they say you do a genomic test, at the most, I mean, on the top test on the market, you're analyzing 800 to 1,000 gene combination.
You mean the whole?
Yeah, but the whole
gene?
genome is composed of 33,000 couple of.
So in 10 years, all this information?
No. Today
will
you
be
can
stored.
already do a full sequence, so you can understand how your genome is composed of. So where you have deletion, where you have genes are not replicating, mutation stuff.
Yes.
The problem is that there's probably a
You don't
handful
know
of
what to do with
genetics
this
in the world
information,
that
yes.
can read it, right?
Yes.
First of all, because the report, it's like 5 gigabytes on a hard disk.
But when I think about it, for example, in Bulgaria, I'm not sure if there is a place where you can make all this.
Well, you don't have.
Tests.
I mean,
partly-
it's all home care. So it's like all online testing now. So
Okay.
you don't really have a lab anymore. I mean, you really have like, few labs in the UAE, US a lot, and just ship it to them. It's saliva.
Okay.
And that's another big trend. There's several companies. One of them, it's the company Daniel works with, that's doing the NAD test level.
Danny is the owner of this clinic,
Yeah.
just to specify
Yes.
for our audience.
One of the challenges, one of the market shift is going to be that most of the lab testing on proteomics or on like
Genes.
no on like just the normal blood we
Okay.
draw or saliva are going to be home care, so they're going to be self-made. You're not going to, in the next 10 years, you're not going to go to the lab and get your blood withdrawn. There's going to be companies that are going to send you your
Small machines.
No. You're gonna send you it's gonna be self-made. You have like immediate result.
Okay.
A bit like I don't know if you remember. There was a company called Theranos, which was a big failure. This lady from Silicon Valley, she was a Stanford girl who dropped out, and she basically invented this.
Home laboratory.
No, this machine that with one drop of peripheral blood, you can do like a sort of like 80, 100 biomarkers.
And what
Instead of-
happened with her? Why
She
the
raised
company
2.5
wasn't-
billion.
Okay.
But the technology was not there. So she was faking that she was using a machine, but she was actually using old school.
Okay. So this will happen for real in the next years.
Yeah, that's the.
Do you think that the ordinary person's mind is ready for all this information? How
No.
will people react to this access?
Well, I think the impact of the risk factors, especially if you think of the G20 countries. Is Bulgaria part of the G20? I don't know. I'm sure it is. Might be.
I think yes.
The impact of pollution, the toxicity of food, it's becoming even more powerful in the last 20 years. You know, you think about the blue zone now, the new blue zone studies. I mean, we have, 5 blue zone in Okinawa, Italy, Sardinia, Ecuador, the Amazon, where they've studied that the population are basically so, let's say, longevous, so like they have such a huge health and lifespan because they've been very protected in what they eat.
Okay, it makes sense. And where is the place in the world with people with most healthy habits?
Probably
is there...
probably Asia, probably Japan. I mean, it's hard to say. For example, the people from the Nordics, they eat a lot of good fatty, fatty acids, from fish and skins and stuff like that. So, which we wouldn't eat, right? The Mediterranean or. So it really, I mean, in general, the Mediterranean diet is considered to be a very balanced diet, but it's not about the diet. It's about the toxicity that it's been introduced in processing the foods.
I would like also to ask you something personal about your health condition, because I know you had your challenges in your past. Are you comfortable to share?
Yeah, absolutely.
Part
I've done
of
many.
this story because
yeah.
I think it's really amazing.
I actually was. So I had 5 cancers, one every 10 years. Well, first one was 2. I had a sarcoma, which is a bone cancer. Then I had leukemia when I was 13. Did a bone marrow transplant. Then I had it's called the Warthin cancer, which is a parotiditis cancer. Then I had a thyroid cancer. And then I had a pancreatic cancer.
And
I'm
you're
good.
standing
I'm still
here.
I'm still here. I'm of course
and you're healthy
insulin
now?
dependent, but I'm good now.
And how you managed to,
Well, I guess
cope with this?
I
It's
guess
amazing.
all this sort of forces me to to be even more health conscious. To be I take a blood test every month. I'm of course on the let's say over
protective about your health. Yes, you should be with your history. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm still trying to understand what is my so-called oncogenesis. Why do I get? Is it the exposure to Chernobyl or whatever? Nobody really gave me a fulfilling answer. I took a test actually in December. I spent the whole month in the US. I took this test, which there's a couple one. There's an Italian company is doing a similar test. It's the new line of early cancer interception tests.
What is the name of this test?
It's the Grail test.
Grail.
Grail, yeah.
Okay.
Cost about 1,400, so still very expensive. But it gives you a full
I think we have it here in Bulgaria also in one place in Sofia. They're doing this.
Yeah.
And you already made this test?
Yeah, and it turned out negative.
What was the result? Negative?
Yeah.
So it's something that you do.
Yeah, there's another
to
company
yourself.
who's doing PET scan MRIs
Okay.
at like 16 Tesla. Just to give you an idea, the normal MRI it's like 1 or 2 Tesla, depending on the technology. And so it's a Canadian company. They're just opening location all over the US and they're coming to Europe now. They have like a waiting list of 6 months, and the PET scan works on bioimpedance and different technologies, and so they can really detect early metastases.
What's happening? Yes. But how you manage to handle with these 5 different
Well, I'm sure gonna have
situations.
a 6th one. That's for sure. Probably the prostate. It's gonna be the next one. Because when I did my first predictive genomic, that's what came out. Like that's 18 years ago. Yeah.
But how you manage to cope with all this?
Well, it's not easy. You have of course ups and downs, but I'm good. I do sports. I try to be healthy. I gain some weight. I go down, and that's mainly the problem when you have my problem is that my sort of metabolic switch is not, as with a normal person, because you don't have, you don't have the thyroid regulating your.
You don't have
No,
that right?
no, and then not having insulin, which is a problem. But on the counter side, now that I have, my glucose meter, and I measure all the time
Your
my
peaks.
glycemics, my peaks, and yeah.
Do you eat sugar?
I die to eat sugar. Yeah, but I try not to. But that's my yeah, chocolate mostly.
But I guess you just have some great mindset for you're a
I
winner
guess, yeah.
and you're a survivor. How do you have this kind of mindset?
I think it came when I was the strongest one was, well, probably the strongest one was the one I had 2 years ago, because I was in coma for 6 months when I lost my pancreas. But I think when I was a kid,
You
'cause
also don't have a pancreas.
yeah. So when I was a kid, when I had leukemia, I spent like almost 2 years in the hospital. So I had to, be schooled in the hospital.
And this is not genetic. I mean, from
No,
from
at all.
generation
No,
of
oncology, you don't really. I mean, there are few studies, but no, my family has other, problems like.
And your personal feelings. You mentioned Chernobyl is something.
That's what the doctors tell you.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, cancer. It's the result of mostly your epigenetic life. That's what I call it, right? So, and sugar, it's what destroys everything, if you think about it.
We have it here in Bulgaria also in one place in
Yeah.
Sofia. They're doing this.
Yeah.
And you already made this test?
Yeah, and it turned out
what was the
negative.
result? Negative.
Yeah.
So it's something that you do.
Yeah, there's another
to
company
yourself.
who's doing PET scan MRIs
Okay.
at like 16 Tesla. Just to give you an idea, the normal MRI it's like 1 or 2 Tesla,
Okay.
depending on the technology. And so it's a Canadian company. They're just opening location all over the US, and they're coming to Europe now. They have like a waiting list of 6 months, and the PET scan works on bioimpedantiometry and technologies, and so they can really detect early,
What's
metastases.
happening? Yes. But how you manage to handle with these 5 different?
Well, I'm sure gonna have a 6th one.
situations?
That's for sure. That's for sure. Probably the prostate. It's going to be the next one. Because when I did
No.
my first predictive genomic, that's what came out. Like, that's 18 years ago, yeah.
But how you manage to cope with all this?
Well, it's not
cancer?
easy. I mean, you have, of course, ups and downs, but I'm good. I mean, I do sports. I try to be healthy. I mean, I gain some weight, I go down, and that's mainly the problem when you have. My problem is that my sort of metabolic switch is not, as with a normal person, because you don't have, you don't have the thyroid regulating your.
You don't have
No,
that right?
no, and then not having insulin, which is a problem. But on the counter side, now that I have, my glucose meter, and I measure all the time
Your
my
peaks.
glycemics, my peaks, and yeah.
Do you eat sugar?
I die to eat sugar. Yeah, but I try not to. But that's my yeah, chocolate mostly.
But I guess you just have some great mindset for you're a winner
I guess, yeah.
and you're a survivor. How do you have this kind of mindset?
I think it came when I was the strongest one was, well, probably the strongest one was the one I had 2 years ago, because I was in coma for 6 months when I lost my pancreas. But I think when I was a kid,
You also don't have a pancreas.
yeah. So when I was a kid, when I had leukemia, I spent like almost 2 years in the hospital. So I had to, be schooled in the hospital.
And this is not genetic. I mean, from
No,
from
at all.
generation
No,
of
oncology, you don't really. I mean, there are few studies, but no, my family has other, problems like.
And your personal feelings, you mentioned Chernobyl is something...
That's what the doctors
maybe,
tell you.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, cancer. It's it's the result of mostly your epigenetic life. That's what I call it, right? So, and sugar, it's what destroys everything. If you think about it.
Sugar.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I spent a lot of. I mean, I wouldn't say a lot. Like, probably a quarter of my life in the U.S. So I haven't been
eat
eating
a lot
healthy.
of sugar.
Yeah.
So, do you think that sugar is...
Sugar, it's the precursor of any
Okay.
yeah.
So...
I mean, if you think of it, leukemia, it's the cancer of the blood, right? So, but it's generated probably by too much sugar. I mean, there are different causes. But.
Because, for example, the last 2 months, I decided I will stop eating sugar.
Totally.
Totally.
But what sugar do you intake? Like, do you put sugar in the coffee or
any
cakes,
kind of sugar,
cookies?
also.
I mean, sugar is in the pasta as well, right? So it's a sort
yes, maybe
of
this
carbs
kind.
are sugar.
There is also in the syrup for
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
is also sugar. So this maybe I cannot stop taking. But what is up to me, the sugar in my food. So even the fruit sugar. I try to, make the minimum, because I've read really interesting books, Glucose Goddess.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know it, and this really make great impact on my mindset. And actually, this connection to see it clear, cancer and sugar, was the breaking point that I decided, okay, I quit with sugar.
Yeah, she was the head of this company 23andMe.
Okay.
She's the founder was the former wife of Sergey Brin, the Googler, right, Monica. And then she dropped out, and she's pretty good. There's another one you should follow. She does amazing podcast. Her name is Mindy Pelz, for woman.
Mindy Pelz.
Mindy Pelz. She's I don't know if she's an OB-GYN, but she's very good with the hormone diet. That's how she calls it for a woman.
So for how many days you're here? Because I also have a podcast, and I think it will be very interesting for our audience also to invite you as a guest and talk about longevity and biohacking.
No, I leave tomorrow.
And
You
the
should
next
come
time
to
you're
Milano, which is always good to come to Milano, right? It's a good excuse for shopping. We're doing a big conference, and I think among all the biohacking conferences around the world, the woman who organizes it, she's a scientist. She's above, let's say, unbiased. The organization is non-profit, so I think that's what she has been putting together, the largest, the most, let's say, prominent minds in the longevity right now. So there's Sinclair that comes, Nir Barzilai, the CEO of Los Altos Labs, Michael Sagner, which is this huge King's College precision doctor. So it's in Milano. It's called the Milano Longevity Week. It's from the 18th to the 25th. It's 7 days.
But in March, in
March,
April,
March.
Do you plan to come here in Bulgaria?
Yeah, I will come. Yeah.
Okay,
we can
next
decide.
time or the time
Well,
after
yeah.
next time.
We can.
You promise me?
I will. I will. You should look it up. This maybe also thinking of organizing a little conference here in
Why
smaller
not?
one, longevity.
It's a very good idea.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. I'll send you the link. I'll show. Yeah, Daniela has it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So many things we can talk more.
Yeah.
Let's stop here.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.